Ortus Arena. What's it worth? Well, what is Ortus Arena? Basically, it's a board game, but it's more like a turn-based strategy game mixed with a board game. So it's kind of like a mixture of a chess type game, but kind of more along the lines of Heroes of Might and Magic on the not the campaign part, but the actual strategy turn-based fighting part. So what you have to do is in the game you've got to capture wells, because what wells do, they're energy wells and they give you energy. And what energy in this game is basically it's action points. So I'll call it action points in future, but basically capture wells, and the more wells you have, the more action points you're going to have on your turn. And the more action points you have on your turn compared to your enemy, the more chances you have to actually attack him, and also it gives you more for defense, because in this game you actually have to keep some of you've got to keep some of your action points back for your opponent's turn so that you can defend yourself. So if you have no action points left and your enemy attacks you, he will just instantly kill your character. So you need to balance between how much can I try to control the board, how much can I attack, and how much can I leave myself in defense. So there's various energy wells around the board. If you can manage to control 5 of them for a turn, you'll win the game. Other than that, you've got to kill 8 of your enemy's units. Now, the enemy won't start with 8 units, but if you lose a unit, your enemy loses a unit, they will be respawned on the following turn. So basically, there's a lot of different units in it, so that stops it from being too chess-like, and it makes it more like Heroes of Might of Magic, because they've got different abilities, and it's not too mathematically based, although it is. Does have a decent amount of, like, you don't need to do maths in it, but there is a decent amount of calculating you can do, like in chess, but it's not too much. It's very skill based, and it's a really excellent game as far as I can see so far. I really like it, but it does have some problems which I'll get into later. But I actually really like this game. Um, so basically, one of the problems with the energy wells is you've got to hold energy wells, right? Because you want to get the action points on the next turn, because without them you're very vulnerable to be attacked, and you can make very few moves because you've got so few action points. So basically, also, if you're, as I said before, if your enemy takes 5 of them, you lose the game, and same if you take 5, you win the game. So holding these points makes the game very strategic, as well as just being a tactical turn-based game. It brings in a very strong strategic element that you need to hold these wells. So that's really good, but there's one problem I've had with it so far with this system of having to hold the wells, is that it ties up a lot of your players, so, or a lot of your units, sorry. So because they're tied up, you don't want to leave an energy well, because you need to keep getting those action points, and you don't want to leave it open as well that the enemy could take 5 of them and then you're going to lose. So it ties up some of your units, which can be okay because you've got ranged units. It's good to put ranged units on those points if you can get them, because they can stay there like almost like a turret, that they can stay there and they can shoot at the like shuriken stars or whatever at the opponent. But the further away the opponent is, the more action points it takes to throw your star, or if you've got an attack like your melee character, the further away it is, the more action points it takes to do an attack. So basically, one of the problems with this system is, because you've got to hold the points, your units are tied up for one, and you're afraid to take your units off, because then you're going to have less attack points or action points in the next round, and also you're going to have less defense every time you use. So one of the problems is, and I've only played against the AI, is it can often turn into a stalemate. For example, if you may have 4 wells and the enemy has 3, for example, whatever way the points are lined up, it takes too many of your points to attack the enemy, because even if you can take out that enemy, you're basically leaving yourself often with so few action points that you've no defense in the next game, and the enemy can just basically destroy you and take all your points. So turns into a thing where there's no point in making a move, and when you don't make if you skip your turn, like if you don't use any of your action points in your turn, the opponent won't either, because you don't store action points to the next round. Basically, at the start of every round, you get 14 from the center of the board, and then you get 4 extra action points from each energy well that you hold. So I have found that there can be a problem with stalemates. Now, this may not be the case when you're playing against a human opponent, but so far there hasn't been anybody online to play against as a human opponent. Now, it's only just out, so hopefully that will change. So let's get into the campaign. I would say it's not really a campaign, it's more of a tutorial campaign, because it starts off very basic, and they teach you each unit as you go, because there's different units with different abilities, etc. So now, I have noticed 1 or 2 problems in the tutorial. For example, the energy sources on 1 or 2 of the maps weren't actually on the energy wells. Now, I don't know if that was on purpose or not, but I kept losing it over and over when I was holding the energy wells, and I didn't realize it was because actual little energy points weren't on the icons. They were on other squares, which maybe that was supposed to be there, maybe it wasn't. I can't really tell, but once I figured that out, I was able to go to where the energy points were and progress. Now, I haven't finished the campaign because there was one of the levels towards the end I found it got into a stalemate every single time against the AI. So when you play the campaign, it's not very long, and I would call it more of a tutorial than a campaign. Problem with being stuck there was they teach you the units as you go, so I didn't learn how to use the last few special units because I couldn't get to them levels. I don't know if it was even possible. I'm sure it was, but it was more like whatever level I was on, it was more like a puzzle, like how do I get to hold the 5 energy wells, because I think I had 4, he had 3, I didn't have enough energy to attack, and without like giving up my whole defense, so basically it was a stalemate. So I would say that it's more of a tutorial. I wouldn't call it campaign. Now, you can play single player in this game, which is like against the AI. There's 2 modes. One is like you have more basic units, and one has all the units. Now, after playing for a little while in the tutorial, I found it was quite easy to beat the computer or beat the AI in the 2 different modes, because I don't think the AI is very good in this game, and that's one of the problems. Is once you kind of get the hang of it, you'll go for the energy wells, they'll go for theirs, and it's kind of stalemate. But if you surround one of their wells, they don't really react that well to it. They don't really do that much defense on it, and you can knock them off. You get the 5th one and you'll instantly win. So for me, that's the main problem with the game. As far as I'm concerned, the game is really excellent. I'm not 100% sure about the balancing of the wells, because I haven't played a real opponent. They would probably know how to do it, how to make moves without it being a stalemate. But like I said, the problem is the lack of people playing at the moment. So if there's no people playing the game, I'd say you would get about 3 or 4 hours play of it before you've done everything. Because once you beat the AI once or twice, the game goes the exact same way every time. You get out as quick as you can, try to get the 4 wells, they'll get their 4 or whatever it is. I can't remember exactly the number. And then you'll surround one of theirs with a couple of your free players, and they won't really react to it, and you'll beat them. And it worked that way pretty much every time I did it, which wasn't many times, because once you've done it a couple of times, it's somewhat pointless. Now, this game reminds me a lot of another game I have called Tactical Genius. Now, Tactical Genius is an excellent game too, and it was a bit more expensive than this when it came out, but it's currently free to play. Tactical Genius had the same problem though. It doesn't have an online community. The game is excellent, but it doesn't have an online community. So the Tactical Genius didn't even have single player. At least this has single player, but unfortunately the AI is not very good. So one thing Tactical Genius had that this could be used for this is that when you took over the equivalent of an energy well in that game, you didn't have to sit and hold it. You could leave it and it would remain yours until an enemy took it over. So that if that was in it, it would get rid of the stalemate aspect of the game, I think. But like I said, there may not be stalemates in the game when you're playing against a real opponent. I've only played against the AI. So looking at the game costs $8.99. So what I think the game is worth, I give it two different values. One if it has an online community, and one if it doesn't. So if it doesn't have an online community, I'd say the game would be worth $1.99 because you'll only get 3 or 4 hours play from it, and then you've kind of seen everything. However, if there is an online community, it's such an enjoyable game that you could get like hundreds of hours out of it. Possibly, it's excellent. So I'd say I'd give it $6.99, but at the moment it's $8.99. And I would still pay the $8.99, even though I think it's slightly high for a turn-based board game. But the game is so enjoyable that I would pay that if there was an online community. So I'd recommend buying the game, but I'd first recommend checking out is anyone actually playing it, because if they're not playing it, it's kind of, you won't get much time of it. If they are and you like the game, you'll get a huge amount of play from it. But I would check Steam charts before I'd buy the game. If it has a thriving community, yeah, definitely jump on it. It's excellent. But the problem as well, though, is because other people might then be waiting to see, oh, has it got a community or not? People hold back, so it's a bit of a chicken and egg situation there. But I've played it and I haven't seen anybody online yet. Now, I mostly played it before it came out, but I have turned it on a couple of times since it came out and I haven't seen anybody online yet. So I'd say excellent game, but worth buying, even though it's slightly higher priced than I think it should be. But really depends upon if it has a multiplayer community or not.